I've been doing a theme on putting God first as our theme for this year. We're just going to walk through the Bible, different biblical characters and different situations where individuals made a difficult choice to put God first and to keep God first in their journey with him. And so the last time I was here wasn't last time I was here. We started off with Noah. We're going to continue. Well, last time I was here, we talked about prayer. 2 times before that, we did Noah part 1. And so I want to continue with the story of Noah as we continue to take this journey. I just want to tell you, just from the outset, if you don't get anything, get my theme for today. And it's that putting God first doesn't remove you from the storms of life. It keeps you in God's care during the storms. I'll say that again, and I hope you get it. If you take anything, what did the pastor say? He told us today that putting God first doesn't remove you from the storms of life. It keeps you in God's care during the storms. Much of the Bible deals with crises. Adam, Eve, Cain, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Joseph, Moses, Samson, Saul, David, Elijah, Daniel, and numerous other people faced crises that the Old Testament describes in detail. Jesus faced crisis, especially at the time of his crucifixion, and so did the disciples, Paul, and many early believers. Several of the epistles were written to help individual or churches meet crises. And Hebrews 11 summarizes both crises that had happy endings and those that resulted in torture, suffering, and even death. And sometimes in our Christian life, when we decide that we put God first and you decide to follow Christ, sometimes the illusion is everything will be perfect. I will face no tragedies. I will face no trials in life. I will face no difficult circumstances in life. But in all reality, that's not true. When you elect to join God's army and surrender your life to Christ, what you have decided is no matter what I face in life, as long as I know God is with me, I have hope. Becoming a Christian and surrendering your life to Jesus does not remove you from the storms of life. It allows God to carry you, and you recognize and acknowledge that God is sustaining you and carrying you through the storms of life. Oftentimes, Christians become frustrated and irritated and hurt and feel betrayed when things in life fall apart while they are Christians, especially when they make tough choices of putting God first. They think that the bills will always be paid and you will never fall behind. That's not true. You feel as though you'll never be unemployed. That's not true. They begin to think that you won't face health challenges. That's not true. There'll be times when you don't feel like your life doesn't have any directions. There'll be times when you don't get that long anticipated promotions. There'll be times when you will become or might become a widow or widower, single again. There'll be times as the Christians do face it that their marriages will end in divorce. It's not God's idea, but the reality is it happens. Oftentimes in your Christian experience, you will come to a time when you will have an incurable disease. There are times when you struggle, when you look all around and you don't have nothing to believe in but God. There'll be times when you feel lonely, when you feel rejected. And yes, it hurts when you feel rejected by the person you've given your life as a spouse. Or even you sacrifice for your child, and your adult child, or your child as a youth comes and they reject you in and it hurts. Yes, it happens in Christian families. It hurts when you poured into your children and you poured in the word. You sang songs. You brought them to Sabbath school. You took them to Pathfinders. They were at AY. They went to the camps. They went to Christian schools, and yet they still walk away from God. It hurts. It hurts when you poured everything in your home and you finally get that home to the place just like you wanted. You bought all the furnishes and everything is fine, but yet a fire comes and wipes it out. It hurts. Storms happen in life. Storms will come. Be ready. God never promised they won't come. Sometimes you go through life that you may be rejected by your skin color, your gender, your nationality, your social economic standing. Sometimes you're just frustrated in life that you never got a chance to really reach your goals in life. You get 60 or 70 and you're frustrated. I've given so much to everybody else and I can't reach my goals. Storms come. Sometimes they're physical storms. Sometimes they're emotional storms. Sometimes they are spiritual storms. Storms come in life. And as I read the story of Noah, I realized early on that we see Noah, and God says to Noah in chapter 6, follow me now, follow me. God says to Noah in chapter 6, verses 17 and 18, it says, and behold, are y'all there with me? Genesis 6, verse 17, you got to follow me. Just put your hand there. We're going to walk through 6, 7, and 8, and now we're just going to jump around a little bit. I want you to know we're talking about these storms in life. And it says here in verse 17, Genesis chapter 6, verse 17, and behold, I myself am bringing flood waters on the earth to destroy from under heaven all flesh, in which is the breath of life. Everything that is on the earth shall die. Verse 18, God says, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you will go into the ark, you and your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Also, chapter 7, we see here, it says, and the Lord said to Noah, come into the ark, you and all your households, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Verse 4, it says, for after 7 more days, I will cause it to rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will destroy from the face of the earth all living things that I have made. Verse 10, it says, chapter 7, verse 10, and it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. Verse 11, and in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 7th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. My brothers and sisters, we say this, and they say this is what we call a mabul. They call it the mabul. That means water gushed from the bottom, and it came from the top. But do you realize something here? God says, I'm going to destroy everything. Noah, I'm going to put you in an ark, and you're going to go through it. I'm not going to remove you from the earth. I'm not going to put you somewhere else and you don't experience the waves, the tossing of the storm. You are going to ride out this storm. I'm going to do something great. The flood is going to come and it's going to destroy all living beings. But Noah, you and your family are going to go through the storm, not around the storm, not under the storm, not over the storm, but I'm going to take you through the storm. Oh, my brothers and sisters, it's not easy going through a storm. As I listed some of the things that frustrates us in life, it's not easy going through a storm. It can wear you down mentally. It can wear on you physically. It can cause stress and anxiety and depression and isolation. It can almost wipe out your life. You know people, and I know people who just went through so much and they just say, I'm tired. I'm tired. Have you been there? Have you talked to someone like that? When they just simply say, I'm just tired. The stresses and the storms of life are heavy. And Noah has to get on this boat. Man, I've been thinking about this. You got to help me with this one because God says, I want you to go on this ark. You're going to build it for 120 years. We went through that last time. And you're going to preach it. God says only you and your family and your sons and their wives are going to get on this ark. Now, y'all follow me now. Because I got to thinking. The animals make their way. They get on the ark. Noah and his family, they get on the ark. They're doing everything God told them. He gets on the ark, and the door he cannot close. Struck to that, an angel came and closed the door. Bam, it's sealed. Now, y'all follow me. If I preach for 120 years, and I get on the ark, and I'm telling you, God is about to do something. And then a miracle happened where that door just closed. You can tell, you can think Moses and Noah in his mind is saying, God is about to do it. God is about to do it. I told you God is about to do it. I told you God is about to do it. Have you ever been there when you're on the anticipation, you're at the precipice of that blessing and that breakthrough? I finally got that interview I've been waiting for. I got that interview and I'm going in today and it went well. So you at that point, they're going to hire me. I know I meet all the requirements, but they don't call you today. They don't call you tomorrow. They don't call you the next day. They don't call you for a week. And you're waiting because you know it's yours. Noah is on that ark for 7 days and no rain. When you are where God has told you, you have positioned yourself to be in the blessings of God, and yet you have to wait for God to bring it through. To me, that's not easy. Because outside the ark, they are mocking him. They haven't seen any rain. You've been preaching for rain for 120 years. You've locked yourself up in an ark with those animals. Man, you have lost your... And you let my children tell it. All those stinking animals. And it's only one window. You talking about faith? Listen, my brothers and sisters, come on, y'all with me? We look at 7 days as like it's nothing, but when you day in and day out just sitting there. When John says in Revelation, here are the patience of the saints. My brothers and sisters, that's what it's going to take for us to walk this journey. It's going to take patience when you don't have evidence. It hadn't rained. Man, I can imagine him in there. His wife is talking to him like, oh, you said what now? God said what? God told you to do what? It's not raining yet, bro. And you want me to help you take care of these animals? Oh, yeah. When you make those moves of faith, and we're not even talking about the children or the daughter-in-laws. Because, you know, the daughter-in-laws don't talk to the dad while the dad is around. They get home with their husbands and talk to their husbands about their dad. Does anybody, I have a witness in here today. You know that pillow talk. Seven long days. The mental wear. You talking about faith? My brothers and sisters, I want to encourage you today. This is real. Some of you are at the place you've done what God has asked you to do. You have positioned yourself to be what God has called you to be and to do. You just have to wait on him. Don't give up in your wait on God. You stay in it. I can't promise you that it's easy, but I just started thinking about that thing. 7 long days before the rain came. And I want you to encourage you, my brothers and sisters. Now listen, the rain was coming just to fulfill what he was talking about. Not necessarily a blessing. It's just going to boost up his esteem. Like, I was right. I trusted God and I hung in there and God came through. I want to encourage someone here today. Don't you give up if God is directing you. You hold on to God's unchanging hand. Don't get off the boat. You made a commitment. You stayed with God all the way. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. Maintain your purity until God finds the right person. Oh, it's getting quiet in here on that one right here. When from your youth you said, I'm going to hold on to God says and sends the right person. And now you're 55 and you're still waiting. And your girlfriends have already gotten married and they started their families and they're boosting in their careers. And you have the career and you have the home, you have the resources, but you don't have that man you've been praying about. There are many people who come by the way, but I just want to encourage you, you keep on waiting. The Bible is clear, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. I want to tell a young person, stick to your integrity when it comes to school. It's easy to cheat and get by, but it doesn't last for long. Be true and honest in all you do, and God will bless you in the end. It was a trying ordeal. Ellen White says in Patriarchs and Prophets, page 105, it says the waters rose 15 cubits above the highest mountains. Listen what she says, it often seemed to the family within the ark that they must perish. Or as for 5 long months, their boat was tossed about, apparently at the mercy of the wind and wave. She says it was a trying ordeal. This is after the waters came. That means the flood hit and the waters burst through from beneath and above, and they were tossed and turned. So that means that while they're on the boat, they're where God would have them. That doesn't mean that their fear did not creep in while going through the storm. But she says Noah's faith did not waver, for he had the assurance that the divine hand was upon the helm. My brothers and sisters, I just want to share with you some points. Hopefully we can go home after that. How to hold on through the storm. How to hold on through the storm. It says his faith never wavered. One thing I want to remind you of, number one, how to hold on, making it through the storm. You got to get through the storm. They're coming. We're going to get through the storm. It's not going to be all inclusive. It's not going to be every detail. I just want to extract some points from this story and from the Bible of some strategies you can utilize while you're going through the storm. Know this for sure. One of the best things that he did is taken from Genesis 6, verse 22. And it says here, the first thing is know that he was in God's will. Know that you are in God's will. It says in verse 22, chapter 6, Genesis, it says, thus Noah did according to all that God commanded him, so he did. Then also in chapter 7, verse 5, and Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. In verse 16, it also says here, so those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. I want you to know one of the first things you can do is to make sure, this is what encouraged him, that his faith did not waver, that I did what God asked me to do. When you know you have made a decision to do what God has asked you to do, then you should be encouraged in your faith that God, I have put myself where you have told me to place myself. I have obeyed that which I know. And when you are obeying God, you got to trust that he's with you, that he's going to take care of you, because he promised in the previous chapter, I'm going to bring a storm. You and your family going into the ark, and I got your back. Hang in there, my brothers and sisters. When you obey in God, hang in there. They may terminate you because of your faith in the Sabbath, but you know you have placed yourself where God can keep you. Where you trusting and obeying, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. So when you get the pink slip because you stood firm, just walk out with your head up high, knowing that God is going to work it out, and knowing that you're still on the ark. No. He knew that he was in the will of God. Know that you're in the will of God. Chapter 7, verse 23 says, I want to encourage you when you know that you're in the will of God. Verse 23, it says, so he destroyed all things, which were on the face of the ground, both man and cattle, creeping things and the birds of the air. They were destroyed from the earth. The next word in verse 23 says, only Noah and those who were with him in the ark remained alive. Know that you're in the will of God, that you're obeying God's will. But stay in the ark. Stay in the ark. Stay in the ark. Because those in the ark lived. Those outside the ark perished. Stay in the faith. Hold on to your Christianity in an unchristian world. Maintain your purity in an impure world. Maintain your holiness in an unholy world. Stay in the ark. It may appear that you may lose because people on the outside are marking you. Listen, when you try to live out your Christian faith, yes, people are going to talk about you. Yes. Yes. They're going to make fun of you. They will. When you decide not to drink, when you decide not to curse, when you decide not to sleep around, when you decide to maintain your purity, when you decide to maintain your integrity, people will mock you. When you decide not to dress like everybody else, act like everybody else. Yes, you will be different, but don't give in because you're different. Stand strong because you're following the way of the Lord. Hold on to faith until the very end. Don't give up. Don't give in. He stayed in and his family lived. And I want to say, so when you're going through the storms, my brothers and sisters, know that you're in the will of God. You've done everything you could to make sure that you've aligned your life with God's will. And as long as you know that you're doing his will, you should be able to make it through the storm. And also stay on the ark. Stay in the ark while you're going through the storm. Don't abandon your Christian principles. Don't abandon your Christian faith while you're going through the storm. Hang in there. And I just want to encourage you, some principles I've learned from Psalm 37. While in the ark, I want you to meditate and practice some principles of Psalm 37. Let's go to Psalm 37, and I want you guys to write down some, underline some points here, because I think this is just a very powerful psalm. And when you're going through the storms, I want you to practice this and meditate on some of these things. And there's nothing deep about it, but Psalm 37, I want you, while inside the ark, meditate and practice some principles of Psalm 37. Have you found it, my brothers and sisters? Psalm 37. It's one of my favorites. It says here in the first one, it says, fret not. Do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. The first one I want to tell you, the first principle is don't fret. What is fret? That is to feel or express worry, annoyance, discontent, or the like. So David is saying here, while you're in the storm, don't fret. Don't worry and don't sweat the evildoers, because the Bible says they shall be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. God is saying to us, don't worry nor complain. So while you're going through the storm, it's not easy. But what God is trying to teach us, don't murmur and complain while you're going through the storm. Now remember, murmuring is not an outright just declaration. You know what murmuring is. You don't talk loud. You talk under your voice. And only those close to you. You know, when someone walk by you and get close to somebody, yeah, that's her. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. You know, murmuring, it can destroy a church, destroy a family. But since we're in church, I'll stay with the church for a few minutes. Murmuring can destroy a church. Do I have a witness? Because it's not the defiant out there. What you're doing is wrong. I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't agree with the leaders and what decisions you guys are making. It's those in the background. I don't know what they're doing around there. They're just following her everywhere she goes and everything she does. Who does he think he is? Have you noticed what they did? You look at him. He just followed him everywhere to go. You can't trust him. Look how they did that. They did that. Why in the world they did that? But they ain't talking to nobody. You see how they handle that? Who's on the board? What kind of decision they making up there? And they go around, they murmur. And they always complain about everything, but it's not outful. But then what you notice when you murmur to one person, that person talks to another person, and that person talks to another person, and it gets all the way around throughout the whole, and it can just cause dissension in a congregation and even in a family. Watch your murmuring. Watch it. If it's a prayer request, stick to the prayer request. Get that, or did you miss it? If you call them, say, listen, I'm calling you to say, listen, so-and-so in the hospital, can you pray for them? Okay, that's it. But when they start saying, listen, the reason she's in there because, she was with this man and he did this and that. Hey, listen, you just called me to pray. Let's go ahead and stick to the prayer. You be the one that started. Don't get caught on what? No, you didn't see that on Facebook? No, I didn't see it on Facebook. Yeah, she and her husband just have this problem. I think he's abusing her and every kind of stuff. I know he's an elder in the church, but that's why the pastor not using him very often because she went in just because her blood sugar just got under control. She was just going in to get that taken care of. We done went down to her husband abusing her and he doing this and murmuring, complaining. You be the one. You be the one to stop it. Don't entertain it. If you start talking about someone, listen, we can't go there. They're not here to defend themselves. Let's just keep it at that. But fret not. Let me get back to here. Fret not. It says, fret not. Do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the workers of iniquities. What God is saying here, what David is saying here, listen, when you're going through the storms, guard your tongue not to get into a complaining state or a state of always looking at the negative and just bringing up every evil and negative thing about the situation. I know the animals smell. I know it's only one window. And I know it's hard to be on this boat for 575 days. But somebody got to say, you know what? We're alive. We're still in God's care. It was rough inside here, but God has a purpose for this pain and discomfort we're going through. Be like the little 2-year-old, the 3-year-old boy. It's not easy working in pediatrics. Who went in and had a spinal tap. Said it took about 3 nurses to hold him down. He cried, he sweated, and they held him down. But when he finished, he went to his doctor and said, Dr. So-and-so, he mispronounced his name. But he says, I know you had to do it. Thank you for the pain. Some of us can't tell God thank you when we get our cell phones turned back on. Verse 3, it says, listen, we said we're going to fret not. Verse 3, it says, trust in the Lord. So it's telling us to trust him, have faith in the Lord. Remember, your faith got to be placed somewhere, and it's got to be in a him, the Lord. Then it says, do good. So while you're trusting, do good. So while you're in the storm, make up your mind not to complain, and you're going to put your trust in God, and you're going to try to do good. You're going to work and do good while you're going through the storm, because it'll take your mind off yourself, and it calls in your mind and your heart to care about someone else. I remember taking a walk one day, and I was thinking about some of the difficulties I was going through at the moment. It was just a temporary moment. I was going through some difficult times trying to figure out some things financially. And then I got a call from someone that says, hey, you know what? I got cancer, and they saying it's terminal. I said, Lord, why in the world am I complaining? Let me go ahead and help this person out and walk with them in their journey, and I can get off my little self-centered pouting mountain. David is saying, don't fret. Trust, do good. Find something to do good in your life. When you're going through the storm, it'll deflect your mind. Then he says, dwell in the Lord and feed on his faithfulness. That's what the New King James says. Trust in the Lord and do good. So should I dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. That's what the King James says. God says, listen, when you trust me and you do good, you'll dwell in the land and you will be fed. God will take care of you. Then it says, delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. So we don't want to fret. We want to trust. We want to do good. And we want to delight in the Lord.
You know what it means to delight in the Lord? To delight in him. Delight, that means you just appreciate, you're excited about the goodness of God. Whenever his name is mentioned, there's a smile to your face. Whenever praise is lifted up, you understand the praise and you want to delight in his good. When you look at your circumstances and your situations, you see God working everything out for the good. You're looking for the good that God is bringing to your life, and you delight to talk about him. You delight to praise his name. You delight to just to give glory to his holy name and to work for his cause. You delight. You take delight in everything about yourself. It says, delight yourself also in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Then it says, verse 5, commit your way to the Lord. Here it goes again. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Now remember, he says, don't fret. He said, trust. He says, do good, delight. Then he says, commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him. You have to have a made-up mind that you're determined to follow God all the way, to do his will, follow his will. Be committed to God. Don't be a fair weather Christian that's only here for the fish and loaves, and when the fish and loaves run out, you're gone. Don't be a member of a church that's always taking but never giving your talents, your time, your temper, your treasures. But then he says, God, it says here, commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. The question is, what's your it at this moment? Because my it is different than your it. Your it is different than his it. But we all have an it that needs to come to pass. Oh, yeah. And you know, and can I just let me just throw this in. Don't try to diagnose someone else's it. Just stay within your it. And let God work out your it and bring it to pass. Because my it may be financial. Your it may be physical. Your it may be family crisis. Your it may be emotional strain. Your it may be a debilitating disease. Your it may be taking care of an ill spouse. But we all have an it. But God is saying, you commit to me and it'll come to pass. I will give you strength to take you through it. But that it will come to pass if you stay committed to the one who sustains you. So don't fret, trust, do good, delight, commit. And then in verse 7 it says verse 6, he shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. I remember growing up, King James says it's a little different, but I remember growing up, and I made up my mind, I'm gonna try my best to walk with the Lord. And you grow up in the neighborhood, you're with the boys, you grow up with the boys, you're with boys. It's just the dynamic. You just grow up together, you play together, you do everything together, you fight together, you fight with each other, you do everything. But as they were moving along, they started drinking, and I said, I can't do it, I know the damages. And I made myself up. I'm not like a perfect guy, don't get me wrong, everybody, when I was young. But I made up my mind. I said, I'm going to avoid the alcohol. I don't want to go down there. I don't want to start smoking cigarettes, nor joints, or anything else. Didn't want to start sniffing. But, you know, spearmint young 14, 15, 16-year-olds, they started doing it. And I became the odd guy out. You know how it is. I don't know if you guys know how every Sabbath morning, every Saturday morning, I disappear. I miss Friday night because they doing everything they want to do, you know. I come home, I'm gone all day Saturday. They send me get out of a car with a suit on, you know, a little boy suit, you know. Trying to still be cool, but I'm different. I'm trying to wait the sunset. Anybody been there? watching the clock. Matter of fact, you already come to the evening devotion, close out the Sabbath with your outdoor clothes ready to roll. Anybody been there? Anybody know what I'm talking about? And you've already mapped out your parents' schedule because you want to make sure they're going to be in so you can get the keys for these. I don't know if anybody know what I'm talking about here. So I'm waiting on the keys and I'm waiting on the car and I got my clothes and I'm ready to hang with the guys. Want to see what's going on for the night. But they're getting into things I just don't do. And I felt I was the odd guy out. Odd guy out for years, from 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, through the 20s. We still boys, we gone at 30 years old, 40 years old. But then I found out this text came to light to me. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your judgment as the noonday. When I began to see some of my best friends, they started drinking and they couldn't let go and they're dying at 30-something from liver disease. Getting addicted to drugs and can't break the cycle. And I said, Lord, I was the odd guy out for years, but I see your ways are beyond finding out. Your ways are saving my life. I want to encourage a young person in here. You may be the odd person out, but your judgment will come as the light in the end. Don't give in. Maintain your purity. Maintain integrity. Hang in there in the way of the Lord. He will bring forth you as a light to your friends. They will call you someday and tell you you made the right choice. They thought, I know those people when the storm came and they saw Noah and they realized Noah was in that ark. He made the right decision. His judgment became light and bright that he made the right choice. Don't fret, my brothers and sisters. Trust in God. Do good. Delight yourself in the Lord. Commit your ways to him. Verse 7 says, rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his own way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. So he says, rest in the Lord. Sometimes you got to sit still and let God work it out. Don't try to run ahead of God. Don't start fretting and complaining. Just rest. Have that type of trust that says, I'm going to turn it over to God. And you know what? A text that stood out to me this week. I'm going to get you out here in a good time. Pray for me. But listen, I don't know why, but Philippians 4:6 just hit me this week. And it says, the NIV says, be anxious for nothing. I don't know why. Just this weekend, I know I had to encourage, I ended up sharing it with someone who was going through something. And I saw what God was using, but it was for my heart. Be anxious for nothing. The text says, no matter what comes your way and it creates anxiety in your heart, be anxious for nothing. You want that job. You're waiting for that financial breakthrough. Lord, the bills are due, and this is the day I need for it to come through. I need a job. I need this house to sell. I need to purchase this house. I need for this job and this client to accept this bid. God, I got things that's going on. I'm running late. Let me get to work. Make those lights green all the way through. Ooh, we're flying. We're moving. God, I prayed. I spent time in devotion. The Bible says be anxious for nothing, but by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known to God, and the peace that passes not some understanding, all understandings will do what? Keep your hearts and mind in who? Christ Jesus. Woo, that's a good word. That's a good word. Don't worry when they're antagonizing you, when they are pressuring you, and the enemy is seeking to agitate you with worry and complaining and all kinds of things. You just said, be anxious for nothing. God, I'm going to pray about it, and I'm going to turn it over to you. That's what the word says. Make your request known to God. Don't hold it in. Make your request known to God. And what did it say? With what? Thanksgiving. Praise him in advance. As though you already have it. It's going to come in his timing and his way. We're just going to wait on you to work it out. And it says, and the peace of who? God. Will keep your heart and your mind through or by Christ Jesus. We serve a good God. Wait on him. Wait on him while you're going through the storms. You don't understand. You may not understand every aspect of the storm that you're going through, but know that you didn't cause the storm. Just trust God through the storm. Hey, listen. I'm gonna bring it home. Psalm 37 is something I love because I was just thinking about it. It says, so don't fret, trust, do good, delight, commit, rest. And verse 8 says what? Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret. It only causes harm. While you're going through, my brothers and sisters, cease from anger and forsake wrath. Oftentimes, anger is secondary to a hurt, so we use anger to cover our hurt. And sometimes we don't want to go back and deal with the hurt in a proper way because we want to stay angry. Because sometimes in this life, the storms you're going through do hurt. They hurt. I read those things earlier. Yes, they hurt. When you lose a loved one, it hurts. And yes, you do get angry. But sin not. Cease from anger, forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. For the evildoers will be cut off, but those that wait on the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For a little while, and the wicked shall not be. You shall diligently consider his place, but it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth and delight themselves in the abundance of peace. I just got to throw this last two in. It wasn't part of my notes here, but I like verses 12 and 13. It says the wicked plots against the just and gnashes at him with his teeth. That means, But look what the Lord says in verse 13. The Lord laughs at him, for he sees that his day is coming. The battle is not yours, it's who? It's the Lord. The wicked can go at you, come at you, but you're protected by God. Don't worry about that. It's just a threat. They can gnash their teeth. They can pull their weapons. They can do anything they want to. God has your back. So my brothers and sisters going through the storm, it was a trying ordeal. And you want to make it through the storm, and going through the storm, I want you to know that you got to remember in your mind and your heart that you have obeyed God and done God's will. That's what kept Noah strong. Then he stayed inside the ark, and staying inside the ark preserved his family. And then what you want to do when you're going through the storm, you want to practice the principles of Psalm 37, knowing that God will work things out. Then go back to our text, and I'm going to try to bring you home in 4 minutes. Y'all think it's possible? Somebody said no already. They don't believe the pastor. That's a bad thing. But I'm going to try. See, I could have been talking 4 prophetic minutes. I'll let you do the math on that one. But I'm going to try my best. Listen. I'm going to bring it. I want to bring it home because I think you can get so much, but it's only so much. Listen. What Noah did next I thought was awesome. In verse 8, chapter 8, Genesis chapter 8, verse 20, it says here, and I'm going to bring it home. Verse 20 says, then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done. Then in verse 22, while the earth remains, sun, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. Now, I do acknowledge that you see that God makes the promise and the covenant to always make sure everything, the seasons will always change. They're not by chance, not by evolution, not by science. It's by God's hand that these seasons and the earth maintains its course. But I like something that Noah did here and that Ellen White brings out. And it's that when he came out, he built an altar. And he sacrificed on this altar. And remember, when he gets off the ark, he comes off, the land is desolate. There's no more animals. There's nothing. The only animals we have are the clean animals, and they came by 7. Text says he took some of all the clean and offered a sacrifice. Follow me now. Ellen White brings this out, and I thought it was a great point. His resources were limited, but it didn't prevent him from sacrificing. His resources were limited. It didn't prevent him from worshiping. Are y'all there with me? Job 1:20 says, when Job realized that he had lost so much, the text says Job tore his robe and he worshiped. When you're going through your storms of life, and sometimes when the storm is over, you wonder how you made it through. And emotionally, you are damaged, and sometimes it can be traumatizing. I didn't want to really go into trauma, but it can be. That Noah took time to sacrifice from his resources. He didn't say, I don't have, therefore I can't give. What God provided, he was willing to give of that. And that's how it is in the Christian community. It's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. God asks us to give a certain amount of percentage. It's equal sacrifice, not equal giving. We give from what we have, not trying to be like everyone else. Make up your mind, even at the end or in the middle of the storm. Make time to worship. Turn your eyes toward the Father and worship him in the beauty of his holiness. Acknowledge his goodness and sustaining power that's keeping you. Sometimes worship is great for the soul, and many times worship is high, but you are low. Sometimes in the worship experience, there's time for lament. Well, I can just pour out my heart. God, I know they're singing praises, but my heart is heavy right now. It's hard for me to lift up praise in my pain. Because I felt pain because of the person I love or the hurt that I'm experiencing and the things I'm walking through. It hurts, Father, and I can't lift it up. But I'm here to praise you because I trust you. Watch it now. This Sabbath, I may not stand to praise your name. I may cry to praise your name. But that doesn't mean the next Sabbath I won't be on my feet praising you. But if I do go through a second week, I'm all right. Are y'all there with me, my brothers and sisters? Keep praising him. Keep glorifying him. And then there's going to come a time, though. I've learned from experience. When you're going to take those Sabbaths where you cried and you've come through the storm on the other side. And then you're going to walk up to Mike and Sharice says, I got to praise today. I'm going to lead the praise today because he's been so good to me. I'm going to share the testimony of God's power and love in my life. I'm going to be the one. What am I trying to tell you? Through the storm, through everything you're going through, keep worshiping him. keep rendering the sacrifice of praise. And I think God does some therapy here in the next one. In our scripture reading, I said in 4 minutes, I'm down to. I'm not saying what I'm down to. Listen. I believe God does something special here, and I'm not going to go too deep, but in chapter 9, verses 12 through 17, he says here, and God says, this is the sign of, he says, no, verse 11, chapter 9, verse 11, he says, thus I will establish my covenant with you. Never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God says, this is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I set my rainbow in the clouds, and it shall be for you the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. It shall be when I bring a cloud over the earth, and the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. The water shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. The rainbow shall be in the cloud, and I will look on it to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. And God said to Noah, this is a sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth. Did you notice how many times God said, this is the covenant I'm making, Noah? I'm making a covenant with you. You had never seen rain before, nor a storm like that has ever hit the earth like that before. I put you in an ark and I took care of you. Now you coming off the ark, and clouds will form in the future, Noah. But I want you not to be afraid, nor your family to be afraid when you see the clouds, because I've made a covenant with you. I will never destroy the earth again. And in those clouds, you will see a rainbow. And that rainbow is a reminder to me and a reminder to you that I will never destroy the earth again by a flood. Nor do you believe me that I'm making a covenant with you, child, because you will see clouds again. It's going to rain again, but know that I will protect and preserve you. Nor the clouds may form again. The rain may come again, nor but it will not destroy this earth again. No, I need for you to know that when I say it, I'm not a man that I should lie, nor the son of man that I should repent. I will keep my covenant with you. I am a covenant-keeping God, Noah. And I want you to tell your family that I will walk with them and take care of them. My brothers and sisters, what is God trying to tell us? Every time we look into the clouds and we see a rainbow, we should teach our children and we should remind ourselves that God promised never to destroy this earth. There will not be a total earth devastation. There may be floods in other parts of the world. There may be floods that occur in localities and local areas, but a total flood to annihilate it won't happen. My brothers and sisters, some of you have gone through some storms, and you're going through some storms. And at times you're going to face some storms again in your life. But God has given us precious promises to hold on, that He'll see you through. He'll walk with you, and He'll carry you all the way through. Never lose hope, my brothers and sisters. Never lose hope. Never lose hope in the God that loves, because faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen. I want to tell you, my brothers and sisters, trust Him. Trust God when dark doubts assail thee. Trust Him when thy strength is small. Trust Him when too simply trust Him. Trust Him when thy strength is small. Trust Him when too simply trust Him seems the hardest thing of all. Trust Him. He is ever faithful. Trust Him, for His will is best. Trust Him, for the heart of Jesus is the only place to rest. Trust Him, my brothers and sisters. I want to remind you, my brothers and sisters, that God has a promise for all your needs. I want you to remember, and I'm not going through all of them because my 4 minutes are not eternal. Matter of fact, I've gone about 7 or 8 minutes. But I want to remind you, I just want to go through a few alphabets for you to let you know that A, all these things are sure. Because he says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. B is better than life. Psalm 63:3, your love is better than life. C is comfort me. Psalm 23:4 says, even though I walk through the deepest darkness, I will not fear no evil. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Delight and desires. Psalm 37:4, as I told you, delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Eat what is good. Isaiah 55:2. Why spend money on what is not food and your labor on what does not satisfy? Listen to me and eat what is good, and your soul will delight in the riches of fare. Last one, F. Father has compassion. Psalm 103 verses 13 and 14. As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. For he knows that they are formed. For he knows how we are formed, and he remembers that we are dust. My brothers and sisters, as the song says, like a ship that's tossed and driven, battered by an angry sea, when the storms of life are raging and the Spirit falls on me, I wonder what I have done to make this race so hard. Then I say to myself, take courage, the Lord will make a way somehow, because I know that he will make, or the Lord will make a way somehow. My brothers and sisters, you may feel like you're tossed and driven on an angry sea. You may feel rejected by loved ones. You may feel abandoned by the people that you love. You may be going through a difficult time of a marriage that's breaking apart. You may be going through a situation where you're seeing a loved one's health decline before your eyes. You may be walking through a storm that you facing unemployment and don't know how you're going to meet next month's rent or mortgage. You may be going through a storm that a child has walked away and rejected Christ. I want you to tell you, I want to remind you from that song, the Lord will make a way somehow. Stay on the ark. Stay in the ark. Keep praying, because God will make a way somehow to take you through, and he will save your children. Just keep praying and keep pressing, keep persevering, because our God will make a way somehow.